Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green,
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
and we have the honor of being joined today by L.A. Pink Alexander. L.A. Pink is the First Lady and President of Street Groomers and the CEO of the Community Boutique. LA founded the Community Boutique, which is a 501c3 organization providing high quality clothing, food distribution, mental health services, education, mentorship, personal grooming, and housing assistance for families. Sis,
In
first thing we have to ask is what was your why? Where did you see the need and what caused you to do this?
So I know, and a lot of people be like, yeah, but what else? It wasn't nobody but God. Like
Mm,
literally nobody but him. I was brought here from Denver, Colorado
okay.
in 2014, with no family, no friends, no doors open, no opportunity, didn't know nobody, didn't come here saying, okay, I got a job. I
Mhm.
didn't have any of that going on. I just was following God. God just said, follow me. And so when I got here, I didn't know what he had in store because Georgia was the last place I wanted to live. I
Mm.
did not want to live here. No, 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 no. I was prophesied to come here. I thought that the prophecy was lying, prophet was lying,
Mhm.
until God showed me that she wasn't, and literally he had to show me that in order for me to come here. But she wasn't lying. This is where he wanted me to be, and I've been working ever since I got here. Literally, he been having me working with the homeless ever
Mm.
since I arrived here in Georgia.
Wow.
So, did you already have a passion for community work, or did it bear fruit here?
So when you're talking to someone that helped my mother every step of the way with all of my brothers, with my sister, raising, I only gave birth to one and raised five.
Wow.
So at the
Mm.
age, yes, and I'm only 49 now. So at the time I was only 18, 19, helping my brothers with his two children, helping my baby brother with his children that he occurred and had, but just helping my family, just period. At the age of 13, my brother
Mm.
came to live with me and my baby sister and my son. And he was only 13 years old. And so here it is. I wasn't that much older. I mean, I was like roughly like in my early 20s.
Mm.
But I still was like taking care of things. I've
Yeah.
always been that type of person that helped my mom. I was 13 years old. I got a job. I was giving my mom $200 out of my check, not because I had to, because I wanted to. My
Okay.
mother didn't. Yeah, I didn't want my mom to want for anything. So as I got older, my mama didn't want for nothing, not no hairdo, not no clothes, not no nothing. Okay. Like
Right.
my mom was
That's
spoiled rotten.
beautiful.
She was spoiled. And so I had got pregnant with my son and I had my son. And then shortly after that, a year and a day later, my mother had my baby sister. But when my mom had got pregnant, she came and sat down next to me and she was like, I'm pregnant. I said, so what you gonna do?
Mm.
And it was like it was reversed. It was like she was the daughter and I was the
Yeah.
mother.
Right.
And so when she had my baby sister, I completely took her from my mother, and my
Oh,
mother did
wow.
not have to no, not like completely took her like
Okay.
that.
Oh.
It's just that my mom raised all of us at a
Yeah.
very early age. My
Mm.
mother came from Denver, flee from Denver, from Texas to Denver from my father, in an
Mm.
abusive relationship.
Okay.
And so my mom had always geared her whole entire life around us. And so she had most definitely raised me to be very independent and very helpful. And
Mhm.
so, like I said, at the age of 13, I had a job. My mom didn't want for nothing, honey. I used to come home. I couldn't wait to get my check, honey. I give my mama all my money because I didn't
Oh,
want her to, I didn't want her to need anything in bills
yeah.
or need anything. Just that little bit. Now, don't get it twisted because it helped, but it didn't help
Yeah.
because,
Right.
Yeah.
it was still life. But I just always was helpful. So then as I got older, like I said, my brothers went to prison. And so I had to be that
Mm.
a big auntie, you know, that auntie, they step in, that's my nephews and them, they didn't want for nothing. So I just always was the barrier for the family, you know, to always make sure everybody had everything. I gave my brother his first car. I gave my mama she owned her first car by me giving her the car that I, you know, that I had.
Wow.
It's just that I bought my first house when I was 23, 24. You know, I always was that person that took care of stuff. So I didn't know it had a title to it. You know,
Mm,
I was telling somebody this earlier. I didn't know that what I was doing had titles, and it doesn't to God. You know, it
mhm,
does to man, but it really doesn't to God. But when I came out here, that's when I learned the titles. Oh, okay, this was a nonprofit. This was, you know, this was helping the youth and do it. I've always been
Mhm.
that person.
okay.
I took over 13 children up to get their ASP, what is that called? That
ACT and
yeah. Girl,
yeah.
I'm gonna mess that up because I will.
Uh-huh.
But I took them up to take their test for them to get into college, you
Okay.
know. Yeah, because you know, we never went to college, you know. Our high school, I was the first child of my mother's to graduate from high school. And
Mm,
Okay.
so, you know, I used to just drive the children different places to camps, you
yeah.
know, to everything. So I just always been involved. So when I came out here and God gave me the task to help the homeless, I didn't know what that I didn't know that that had a title to it. I just knew that he sent me to do it.
That it was something that you were led to do. So, how did you come up with the name, the Community Boutique, and what does that um, symbolize or mean for you that it's Community Boutique?
Absolutely. So the community boutique was birthed over at Fountain of Hope. Fountain of Hope, they did a once a month church there
Mhm.
where we serviced the whole entire community. You know, over 400 people would come, and they didn't have any clothes for them. And so we would feed them, we
Mm,
would worship with them, but we didn't have any clothing to give to
good for
them.
them.
And you got to keep in mind, they was coming in, you know, smelling like
As
like it what the
they came
situation
as they
was.
were.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And so I always dignity, empowering dignity was always what I walk with, talk with, and dealt with. Period. Just anybody I met, they know that they come to my closet and get some clothes. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said, God had me shopping all this time to do a boutique to give to the homeless. I
Yeah.
was like, because I love clothes. Like I love clothes, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to the owner of it, well, at the time the person that operated it, he wasn't the owner of Fountain of Hope. He was one of the operating managers that they
Mhm.
had over there. And I said, can I start setting up some clothes? And he was like, first, he was like, I don't know, because I don't want them scrambling through stuff. And I said, oh no. I was like, that's not how I
How I
envision
move.
what I'm
Right.
about to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so I started with a little table with fold-up shirts, and I put
Mhm.
two young ladies there. I said, I want y'all to assist them when they come up. I want you to help them with their sizes. I want you to help them find what they looking for. You know, we didn't even have that much, but I wanted them, whatever they had on this
You
table,
wanted it
I
to be
need
like
them
a
to be an
shopping
assistant.
experience.
Exactly. And so, and by the end, the boutique still wasn't even birthed. And I just
Mm.
had the table. So then I said, can I have a bigger space? I said, because if I get a bigger space, then I could do a little bit more. You know, I could bring in some racks and hang some stuff and all of this. So he said, I guess. So he gave me a little piece of the warehouse,
Wait,
and
wait.
I
What
flipped.
did he say,
Mhm.
LA? What did he say?
He said,
I
"Oh, I
guess.
guess." That's what he said. He said, "Oh, I guess." And so so I flipped it. I put up walls. I put up these curtain walls, and
Mhm.
I had made it just really, really cute and fancy. I went to my homeboy Q Parker. I mean Harper. It ain't Parker. It's Harper. Q Harper. And I said, "Do you got any clothes or anything that you can help me with? It could be used." Girl, he gave me brand new shoes, brand new clothes. He was the first person that ever gave me my brand new
Blessing.
everything.
Mm,
Okay. So
mm,
that's when I said, that's what the boutique is going to be about. It's going to be about all brand new clothes for them. So I just started searching and talking to different, people that have clothing lines, and was asking them, if you have anything that is slightly, damaged or something, but still brand new, can I have it? So that's when Empowering Dignity Through Fashion came. And God said, you're not just clothing them on the outside, you are clothing their inside. That's that breastplate of armor that you're putting on them, that helmet of salvation, and that coat of victory, and that, he just started breaking it down. He is like, so it's not just clothes. You're now going to minister to them into their spirit. And so that's what I do when they come in. I help them shop. They be like, nah, I don't wear that. I was like, wait. Let's see what it look like on you. So then they had put it up to them. They was like, Miss Pink, it do look nice on me. I sit them down, do they hair, do they nails. We had hair, nails, all that. Yeah, so that's just how it got birthed. And ever since then, we just took it to the street. At first we was in the building, and the building didn't work because COVID came, and it wasn't going to stop me. And so now we set up right at the corner. We don't care where it is. We done been to Eastman, we done been to Detroit, we done been to Chicago, we done been to Denver, Colorado, we done been to Richland, Georgia, Eastman, Georgia. We done been everywhere.
Wow.
So, girl. Yeah. I'm so glad that we finally got you on this dang show, girl, because every time I see you in the streets, the last time I saw you, you was at the Capitol still protesting, doing your thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Speak to the advocacy work that you do and trying to make sure people receive justice.
Yes. So first it started with the homes, people being able to make sure that their landlord is doing what they're supposed to do, because we had got called in through the pandemic. There was 11 individuals that was illegally put out of the hotel. And so I wasn't doing housing and all of that. All I was doing was clothing. I help you put some clothes on your back, but God hadn't given me anything with the housing. And they, Miss Pink, we know you can help us. And so, and I've always been a fighter. I've always, regardless of if they, if it was about the clothes or not, if you call me, I'm going to help in any kind of shape, form, or fashion. But I didn't know that I was going to get the task of having to actually put people allowed to put people in homes. However the case may be, these 11 people call. They're like, hey, they're here at gunpoint. I was connected to the commissioner of DeKalb County, Commissioner Larry Johnson. I immediately called him, and he was like, Ms. Pink, he said, I can't make it over there. He's like, but we'll find out what we can do tomorrow. So I guess he heard the urgency in my voice, because I was like, I gotta go over there. At this time I'm here. He come pulling up in the middle of the street. Take me in, Miss Pink. We go off in there. I got video of it and everything. And he was like, he just got right involved and put the law down. After he finished, he said they all coming with us. We were able to put him in a hotel for 5 months. And through that 5 months process, I went to find apartment complexes that would partner with me to help me house the families. And we were able at the end to house over 179 families from hotel to homes. And so when I say the fight, God had already in line me to fight. I was, like I said, I would go after the landlord already, but now he got me fighting and advocating for these families to have a place to stay, and that was the very first entity that God had brought to us to start housing and stuff. And then we started doing, after that, we got another task that other families called, and we had to go in there, but we housed them as well and paid up their rent and stuff. So God has really allowed me to see his work, because it's him, not me.
Those partnerships are so vital and important. And you've worked, I think I read somewhere that you worked with over like 15 organizations across the metro area. How
37.
did most 37? All right. How did most of these collaborations come together? And is it you usually going to them? Or are they coming to you? How do most of these partnerships happen?
So both, just being in the right place at the right time with the knowing of where God placed you at, a lot of times people go where they feel like, oh, well, I'm going to go over here to see if we can, like, I don't do any networking. I don't even like that word,
Okay.
because I work with God. And when you work with God, he'll bring you the relationships. Like with us, we
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
network, we wasn't in no networking event. God seen and introduced, and we just been connected ever since. And so it's just been God sent. And that's one thing God had to teach me, is that, because you know how we used to say teamwork make the dream work.
Mm-hmm.
And God said, but I didn't form every team. And so he
Mm.
said, come on now. He
That's
said,
right.
my work makes the dream work, because if you're doing his work and I'm doing his work and he connects us together, what we will do in the honor of him will work
That's
if we keep him first. You see what I'm saying?
right.
And so that's how I develop relationships. Just trusting him that, hey, whatever you have in front of me, I will be fulfilling and to do my part to
And
help them, because everything God has given to me, just because he gave it to me, don't mean that it's for me. That's like if
Mm.
he gives me an organization that he aligns me to, and that organization at the time is just sitting with me, and we're doing something, but we ain't really doing as much as you and them could do if y'all connected. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I connect y'all together so that y'all could take off? And y'all, it ain't leaving me behind, because I need to see y'all win. I'm winning. You see what I'm saying?
Love
So
it.
that's just how I live and what I do.
less of you and more of God. What scripture talks about?
Absolutely.
If you trust in all things through Christ, if you believe in God, all things through Christ,
Come
you do
on.
all things through Christ. Is
Yes, indeed.
Philippians
Yes,
4,
indeed.
4:6, 4:7, something like
no,
that. Y'all go ahead and check
4:13. Philippians
4:13.
4:13. I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me. Is that
Hello, that's it. That's it. If you do that, you can get it all together. You
Absolutely.
said about we always want to ask people, is there anything that you don't want to talk about? And I love how you said that you're an open book, let it happen. How do you balance
Absolutely.
your vulnerability with leadership out here in these streets?
Everything that I do, I get permission from God, literally. Like, I get up in the morning, I say, God, what do you want me to do?
mm,
Even all the way down to my own husband.
mm,
Like, everybody that know me know, like, when I remember, even when I was saying I was getting married, they was like, to who? Jesus? Because you don't even be with nobody, you know? And so even down to him, even when I first even was encountered with my husband, like, not by far that I knew that this was my husband, but one thing God told me is that my husband was going to teach me. And
mm,
so we were out in Brother Haroon. A lot of people that, if they're familiar with Georgia, knows Brother Haroon.
Mhm.
And when we buried Brother Haroon, his brother always was attentive to me, because I was the first lady of Street Groomers. And he was like, is there anything that you need? Like, just being attentive, not in
mm,
a disrespectful way, not in a any kind of way. He didn't even know. We didn't even know. He just got up one day. I came to pick him up for us to go out into the community to serve. And he
mm.
said, I need you to go talk to God. He said, because God told me you was my wife. And I was like, God
Wow.
ain't told me that. That ain't what
Okay.
God told. I mean, I ain't talked to him about you, because, I ain't had no reason. I've been out here for all these years, 2014, and I've never been with a man. So I mean, I'm not gay. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't come out here for that. I came out here to serve. My
Right.
son is 32 years old, and he's never ever,
Wow.
my husband is the first man he's ever seen me with. And like
Wow.
I said, honey, not gay. Okay.
Right.
But I just trust God, I've always kept my face in his
Mm-hmm.
face.
That's
And when I learned the love of God, I know that there is no love greater than that. Like, and so I'm like, can't nobody love
Yes.
me like
it's
him. Girl,
beyond
can't nobody love me like
it's
that man
Yes.
beyond
love me.
understanding.
But God gave me somebody that do. And
Mhm.
so him and I, we do the same thing. We both serve the community. We both love the community. He absolutely, I mean, he be having to correct me sometimes, like, no, we gonna help them. Like that, then we gonna, and I'm like, I gotta go talk to God. He said, well, go talk to him, because God told me. I said, well, you the head. So I'm gonna talk
Hello.
to him
Hello.
right along. I'm gonna sit next to you and talk to him, because
Okay.
I trust them. I trust what that God, when God tells him something, because the one thing he showed me was what God told me, and that was my husband was going to teach me the word. And so we
Mhm.
stand on that, and that's what he does.
That's what I'm talking about. Love, y'all. Let's talk about it.
So
Okay, okay.
your organization, you
Mm-hmm,
offer a wide range of services from
mm-hmm.
food and clothing, mental health, housing. How do you decide on which services to focus on in any given season? Or is it just what the need is?
So one thing that you'll realize is that a lot of people that we're dealing with from homeless is dealing with mental
Mhm,
health. A lot of people that we're dealing with, well, I'll say unhoused. A lot of people
mhm.
that we're dealing with need food. A lot of people. So it really all runs together. It's a one-stop shop service, really, because all we need to do is get once you come to us and we identify, okay, what all you have going on. And we have these different people that we're involved with. Like we go over to the youth department and we are able to talk to those that have been arrested inside the
Mhm.
system. So, okay, Miss Sharon can help us identify the needs of different things that we need because of what she covers. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that it's just our organization that is doing all of these things. We have other people that initiate the acts of things that
Okay.
we need in place as well. So, and that's why we list them. We list them on our website. We list them everywhere. We've done a lot with Cassandra Kirk. That she's a judge that have helped a lot of other organizations with children that comes in that
Mhm.
have with adoption and all kinds of different things. So on the legal side, she has played a great part before into helping us with different organizations. I send them over there to her, like, girl, what you need,
Mhm.
I might not could do it, but she can, she'll help you get, what you need. So we just a lot of organizations help each other.
That is beautiful.
How do you see this? I love the collaboration with all the different organizations. But how do you see this turning from us reacting to crises to
Mm.
turning this into an elimination of the systemic change that's needed so that we can eliminate the unhoused, the food insecurities, the low income, unfair wages, and so forth? How do you see we can shift it from being a crisis to more of changing the systemic systems that are in place that's creating this a lot of this?
Or do you even see your organization as having a role in that part?
So the part that I feel like if people would complete what they started, that's just like
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
The Partners from Home have partnered with different organizations. Partner from Homes have the money, and these other organizations are supposed to have the avenues and the
Mhm.
the the do's and the don'ts and the wills
Mhm.
and the won'ts. And so when they partner with these organizations, because I was able to assist with getting some of the homeless off the street with taking their items to their home. That's the part I played in it. I played Miss Camille called me and she was telling me what was about to happen, take place. We went down up under the bridge but Miss Camille spearheaded everything. Our only help was to make sure that the vans and the trucks was full with the items for the homeless.
Okay.
So knowing your place and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. So in this, okay, we delivered them to their places. Now Miss Camille's they're done.
Right.
Gateway, they're done to a certain degree.
Mhm.
But our organization now kicks in because we need to help them with the extra.
Right.
The If they don't get a bed, we got to get them a bed. If they don't get clothes, we need to make sure they got clothes. If they don't get food, we got to make sure they get food. If their utilities are going out, it's almost that 3 months is up. We need to make sure that they are secure
Yeah.
in taking care of it the rest of the way. So
Mhm.
they can start it, but we finish it. Like we help them finish it and maintain it. And we like to make sure that, hey, okay, if you need a job, we make sure we get you to your job or whatever it is that you need. We make sure you have bus fare to get there. Make sure you don't get late on your gas, so we don't be right back into the effect of what we
Mhm.
just got you out of. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's that making sure you don't go back.
Got it.
That's the process we like to play in it because we don't have a whole bunch of money. The money that we do have is out of our own pocket. We don't get any
Yeah.
government assistance. And I thank God for that because I could talk reckless when I want to.
There you
Hello.
go.
Not up
That
under
part.
no, okay.
That
Hello.
part.
I'm not up
So
under no lock
nobody's
and key
Strings.
thumb.
and
Nobody's
yeah.
thumb. Because that was the thing a few years back when all of these churches,
Mm-hmm.
faith-based initiatives, took
Mm-hmm.
money from
Mm-hmm.
one of the administrations.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do that, you can't speak truth to power
Mm-mm.
Nope.
because
You can't.
they've now have given you that money,
Yep.
and because now you've become dependent upon
A
that
puppet.
stream of revenue coming in to support whatever you put in your budget to run up
Mm-hmm.
under that stream
Yep.
of income. You still want that program to run, so
Yep.
you can't speak truth to power because they might turn off that faucet. But
Yep. And
you
you
know,
don't want that. So you become a dead fish and you just go with the flow. And
yeah.
see, and I refuse to do that. I refuse to. Now, I have been sent many grants that our organization qualified because we most
Mhm.
definitely do the work. But
Mhm.
when we read the fine print, that fine line down there at the bottom that you
Mm,
overlook because you just so into that $100,000 and how what all I can do. Yeah,
Mhm.
I can do a lot. I could do a lot, honey. I could do a lot with $1,000. But what I'm not going to do is get myself tied up that when it's time for me to actually fight for the individuals that I serve, I can't do that because
Right.
that's what's happening right now. That's the reason why we're asking, like, well, where's the churches at when for our elders? Where the church is at for, I mean, a lot of people love Jamal Bryan. I hate if that's one of y'all's pastors, but a lot of his members come to me and they sleeping in their cars and they need things. You know what I'm saying? But you
Mhm.
boycotting over here Target and you boycotting over here this and that. And it's all a show because if it would not be, then your members wouldn't be at my door. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Oh,
Right.
like I ain't got no money. I ain't got that kind of money he got,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you're allowing your upper room because you're following suit. You're doing what they're asking you to do because you got to keep, your sheep up
Yeah.
under you and
Mhm.
you got to keep them, and they listening to you. So you better say this because if you
Mhm.
don't, you gonna have to pay. And so we just can't be sold out.
I
Facts.
hear that.
You know what? You still should be able to boycott and make sure you take care of home. Hello. If you have all of
Mm.
that, it definitely needs to be prioritized. So we can call it out. Let's stick to facts. You know who's coming to you, and we need to make
Yep.
sure that people. I mean, just don't blindly stay in places that is not holding up their end of what they say they're doing. And not only just
Absolutely.
churches, but also organizations, because I see organizations
Absolutely.
where they say they're going to do something and
And
then
don't do it.
don't follow it through. These telephone
Yep.
numbers just loop. I had a veteran that literally, like in a week or 2 weeks, went from the first number and circled all the way back around to the
Mm.
number
Mm-hmm.
given, and they never received any services. And then I had to face my PTSD and take them to the VA and all this other stuff because the services that are out there
Yeah.
aren't doing what they say do. And that's what I'm saying.
That.
Like, what can we do to help break? It's so many organizations. It's just too many of people in need, and all of us out here doing the best we can. We just can't do it all. And it seems like we're all just over on top of each other.
Yep. We are.
An overarching solution needs to happen. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know where that comes from. That's why I like talking to leaders such as yourself, so we can all
Yeah.
figure out, like, what is it that we can do together to try to
Mm-hmm.
advocate with the Georgia Dome and nationwide and all across, to try to figure out how do we really put an end to housing, homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? Food insecurities. It makes absolutely no sense. Food insecurities. We have too many
Yeah.
kids, and the stats are out there. How many kids going to bed hungry? How many
Yeah.
people are survivors of
And we're
domestic violence?
cutting food programs.
And we're
Yeah.
cutting food programs. Facts. We keep building houses that's affordable. And I forgot it's some new term that they're starting to use instead of affordable. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Mm.
Listeners, if y'all know, post it. But because affordable, you say $500,000 affordable, and we just, it's
It's
crazy.
relative.
Right. Who
It's
can
relative.
afford $500,000 when we don't have a salary that dictates that? When you still got
Yeah.
$6 and some change being minimum wage, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
What's
Facts.
next for the community boutique? And are there any new initiatives on the horizon?
So with community boutique, we're always in the community. And with me being the president and first lady over Street Groomers, the boutique go wherever now. It's wherever and
Okay.
okay.
however. Yeah, because right now, Street Groomers really have been on the forefront of what we are really focusing on. God has shifted us. The clothing is still there. Most definitely, we're in schools. We were in Frederick Douglass High School. We had the boutique up there. So that's a lot what I would want to see happening with the boutique in the future, for it to be staged in schools for
Okay.
less fortunate families,
Mhm.
children that are dealing with foster care, so that foster parents can always be able to come in and shop and have a nice upscale, and be free. And I don't want them to pay a dime. I,
Yeah.
I want to keep it that way. I do not want to become the Goodwill. I don't want you giving me your goods and I'm selling
Yeah.
them to try to keep the building straight. No, I want God to be able to bless me, that my building stays straight, that I could continue to do what I'm supposed to do, and that's give. I
And
don't know where people get this from, that, 1 minute they give and in the next minute now they selling, and they say, yeah, but you gotta keep a roof over your head. Well, God is gonna do that. I promise you
Mm.
that. You
that's
can't
right.
turn a blessing into a business.
Stop
I
talking.
just,
Yeah.
I just, I just don't think that that's what God called me to do. I don't know about nobody else. I've always given away clothes, even before I knew I had a boutique. When I was in Denver, Colorado, everybody came to my house for clothing.
Okay.
Mhm.
So he's not going to have it that way then, for him to start something so powerful and so needed for anybody, for it to change into becoming a thrifty store. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Yeah.
just not, no.
That's
No, no,
not
no.
that's
I
not what
just
that's not what
that's
you have
that's
in
not my
mind.
goal. That's not my goal. That's not a goal that I see him sending me in.
Yeah.
So
Been doing this fight for a very long time. It sounds like, without you even knowing, that you've just been a community leader, an advocate, and a supporter of people who are in need, and it's just in your nature.
absolutely.
But doing this all the way back in the
Absolutely.
streets in Colorado
Mhm.
up until now, what is it that you do to maintain your mental wellness? It's very important for us to help break and shatter the negative stigma around mental illness, mental wellness,
Mhm.
and the conversation around that. And we want to do that by talking about it on our show and sharing
Mhm.
with what we
Absolutely.
individually do to maintain our mental wellness. So, if you wouldn't mind, what are some
Absolutely.
tools in your toolbox that you use to keep you sane and keep doing what you're doing in these streets?
I stand on the purpose of what God have given to me. So I know a lot of people are always saying, I trust God. It's one thing to say it, but it's
Mhm.
Mm.
another thing to live it. And the
Amen.
reason why I always remind people that, that's why he say walk by faith, not by sight. And a lot of people throw a lot of scriptures out with that, but they
Mhm.
ain't standing on it. And when I say
Mm.
standing on it, I mean, I've been here since 2014. I never clocked into anybody's job but God's. Like, I have
Wow.
never worked for anybody. Okay. Like,
Hey.
I've been in my same place for almost 10 years now, in my
Wow.
same house, in the place
Mhm.
that I live now. I done been homeless,
Mhm.
and I don't say I was homeless like everybody else, because I was homeless feeding the homeless. God still had me on mission. He
Mm.
never let me stop. He never let me rest. Do you
Mhm.
hear me? But
Yes.
that was because my walk by faith and not by sight. That was me seeing what he had in front of me, not
Yeah.
behind me, not
Mhm.
on the side of me, but in front of me. He was telling me, don't. I came to Georgia not knowing nobody. I didn't know
Mhm.
not a one soul here. I didn't.
Mhm.
All I was doing was following with God. He moved me into a 3-bedroom house with no job. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
All I had was my savings that I had. And you got to keep in mind, I was leaving Denver, Colorado off of Section 8. Okay.
Won't he do
Off
it?
a section. Come
Won't he
on.
do it?
And so, and the lady told me at Section 8, she said, Miss Alexander, you could take your Section 8 with you. I said, God told me to leave everything. That's what he told
All
me. He
right.
said, leave everything and
And
follow me.
I know
I
that.
came to Georgia
Mm.
not even knowing that Georgia, I hated Georgia because it was such a fast place. And I was like, it's
Mhm.
too fast for me, God. Like, this is too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know nothing about no mega churches. I didn't know nothing about none of this stuff. And he just brought me in here and just dropped me off and was like, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in his face. I stay in his face still to this day. I give
Yeah.
him the same thing I gave him when I first got here, all of me. When
Mm.
he took me to VH1 and he was like, okay. I was like, where you going? And I know to somebody else, I don't know if you talk to him, but I have a serious relationship with this man. So he was like, I'm not in there. You can be in there, but I'm not in there. And I'm going to give you what your heart desires if this is what it desires, but I'm not there. And I was like, well,
Mm.
hold up. If you ain't there, I'm not there. And that's when I began to learn that if he ain't in the room, I ain't in the room. I
Get
don't care
up.
how good it look. I don't care who in there. I don't care what judges
Get
is in
up.
there. I
Yep.
don't care who in this click circle, because this is what I learned too. It's a circle of click. And I was in the circle, but I had to take myself out of that circle because God ain't in there. He wasn't in that clique. He's not in that. God is not a God of cliques. He's a God of mercy, grace, and he's sufficient. So if I believe in the clique, then that's where I would have been. But if I believe in God, then that's where I need to stay. I need to stay with him. And so that's all I stand on. I stand on that. I just stand on trusting that man. I trust him with every breath that I breathe. I can only tell you that I'm a walking image of faith. I had to teach my husband this, and not teach him because my husband is know God very well. But my husband was, when I first got with him, and we've been together now almost 5 years, he was straddling the fence.
Mm-hmm.
He was still out there gang banging, still doing this thing. And he came to me without me even telling him to do anything. He said, I'm giving up everything for you. He said, I refuse to do any of what I used to do by any little bit. He said, I straddled the fence for too long. He said, and I know God is calling me to do something greater than what I was doing. And so I said, hey, all right, well, let's go. Cause I'm gonna support you through cause I'll meet you where you're at, but I got to take you where I'm going.
All right.
T-shirt.
I can't lose. Okay. I can't lose. I cannot lose. God is not going to allow me to. I can't. So whatever you had on you, I'm going to love you through it because God said, love him through his imperfection to his perfection. So whatever he was going through, and he had to see the faith that I got, and he got it. He got it now. You know what I'm saying? We
I
so we
love
both
it.
over here just in faith.
I love it. So
You can drop the
LA,
mic with that girl with God, honey.
yeah.
Okay.
So LA, listeners, I know they're going to be inspired by your story, by your work, by this ministry, because it's a ministry. How can they get involved? How can they support your mission, this ministry, or contact you directly?
Absolutely. They can follow me on Facebook. I am LaQuana LA Pink. I keep wanting to say Ramsey because y'all, that's my name now. It's not Alexander anymore. But
Okay.
Alexander is what it is on Facebook because it won't let me change it. And so LA Pink, or you can go to Street Groomers. If you Google LA Pink, everything that I do in the community will come up. It will pop up, like it will be right there. Brian Goldstone just wrote a book on me, of all a lot of the work, yes, that I have done inside through the pandemic. It's not all of my life because that ain't even gonna be. Because I can't even say it begun nor end, because it's so much stuff that people would be at awe with once the book of my life really gets to be written. Like, because I sit sometimes and I be like, God, you done pulled me through some stuff, because you got to keep in mind, you sitting in front of a woman that almost got 24 years in prison. Okay. So we got a whole bunch we can go over, but that's a whole nother story.
That's
but
another show, right?
Huh?
That's a good.
Save
Yeah.
that
So
for the book. Save that for
yes,
the
yes,
book.
yes, yes. But so but the book that he wrote gave the breakdown of the pandemic, the stuff that happened in the pandemic, some of the families that we helped, not all of them because it was so many, but he picked like the top 5, and he just showed our routine daily that we did with them into process them into win. And so that gives a little bit of a snippet of what I do daily, for God. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, they can cash app Street Groomers, the number 1. And hey, it be a blessing because it's gonna go right back into the community. I mean, that's all we do.
And
And
they can also reach you via email at info@thecommunityboutique.com or visit you at your website at thecommunityboutique.com. Make sure you put thecommunityboutique.com, and contributions can be made through Cash App, $ Community Boutique, and you also said they can also Cash App you at Street Groomers.
Street Groomers, the number 1. Mm-hmm.
Okay, number 1. An email at tcb with lapink at gmail.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's tcb with lapink at gmail.com. So those are the
Yes.
ways that you can reach this dynamic woman.
and where can we get the book? Is that someplace on your website people can buy the
So
book?
I don't have it on my website, but if you go to Brian Goldstone, there's no place for us. That's the name of the book.
There is no
No
place for
place for
us.
us.
Yes. There's no
Okay,
place
good.
for us.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, girl. We
There's
like
no
to
place for
authors. We
us.
promote that,
You said
girl.
by Brian Goldstone,
Yes.
BRAN.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Is it
girl.
gold like gold and a stone?
Uh-huh.
GLDSOTH?
Goldstone, like stone. Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. We gotta let people know, girl, so we can get that out
Yeah.
there. You can buy that book and learn more about you.
Yes.
Ready for the
There's
next
Yes.
book. So
Yes.
come on here with the exclusive. Hello.
there's no
Yes,
place for us
indeed.
by Brian Goldstone, where you can
Yes.
find this
Yes.
amazing story about her life. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us on this
Thanks for
episode of
having me.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat.
Well, we are
All
in
right.
the world one conversation at a time.